Hey, everyone. Good evening, my name is Robin David, and I am your lead government voters of the St. Petersburg area's moderator tonight. I am honored to be asked to be your moderator. The candidates tonight are candidates for St. Pete District 2. Please silence your electronic devices and courtesy to others.
Can you speak up? Can't hear.
Can't hear? Okay.
Get close to the mic.
Oh, yes, I will do that. Is that better?
Well. You need to speak up.
Okay. It's not on?
It is on.
It is
Yeah,
on. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, better.
Better. Okay, I'll speak up. Is that better? Good.
Okay.
Okay, check, thank you. Please note that recordings of this event may not be edited for distribution or use in campaigns. However, the entire forum is being recorded and will be posted on the city's website. If you have not turned in your question card, please do so by raising your hand, and one of our volunteers will collect it from you. We received many questions, and we will get to as many as possible tonight. Just as a reminder, the 2025 municipal election will be on March 11th, 2025. Voting for District 2 Commissioner will be at City Hall, where we are tonight in the City Commission chambers from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I will ask each candidate the same question. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to a question. Our timekeepers at the table will provide a prompt with a 15-second warning and a time's up warning. At the conclusion of the questions and answer session, each candidate will have 2 minutes to summarize their candidacy. Please note that the views expressed by the candidates do not represent those of the voters. Now, let us meet the candidates. We have candidate Grant Itzy and candidate Lisa Robb. Now let's get to the question. Question is, we'll start with candidate Itzy. How long have you been involved with the community of St. Pete Beach? And what have you been involved with, and how did you make a difference?
Robin, well, thank you for the opportunity. I've been in this, putting in this community, can't hear you. How about now? I've been living in the community full time since the summer of 2023. My house was under renovation there, so we were living in the community, we were staying with friends, we were living in rentals, we were kind of all over the place, but we were in the community. As soon as we moved here, after I retired out of the Air Force, for 39 years in the Air Force, as soon as we moved here, I started asking how I could get involved in the community. So I called to talk to someone at City Hall, and they said, well, call your commissioner. So I called then Commissioner Nick Phillips. He said, hey, is there any opportunity for me to serve? And he said, yeah, I have a vacancy on the Parks and Rec. So I jumped right onto the Parks and Rec committee, started coming to a lot of the commission meetings, obviously committee meetings as well, for Parks and Rec. And then since then, just been trying to get myself immersed in the neighborhood in general. Of course, I've got 15 seconds, so I'll wrap it. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Robinson, same question for you. How long have you been involved with the community of St. Pete? What have you been involved with, and how did you do it?
Well, I'm definitely not a newcomer. Some of you may know I've lived here for Gulf Beaches for 54 years. So I've been a local homegrown 54-year Gulf Beach resident. 35 of those years have been on St. Pete Beach. And for 21 of those years, I have actively advocated for the residents in the community of St. Pete Beach. I've made a difference because I have done more in my short tenure of 5 months than any commissioner has done in their 2-year term. Since the hurricanes, I immediately initiated and voted to change the look back to zero. I repealed the 10% and 20% owner builder fees, waived permit fees, increased permit staff, worked with the permit department to get rid of red tape and to provide clear and concise information, such as these drawings. I led a workshop on navigating the substantial damage appeals process, which gave residents hope, and I organized 36 residents on a volunteer program to work with other residents on a one-on-one, neighbor to neighbor, to help them through the permit application process. I have been present, I have walked the walk for the residents of this community. I'm entrusted with endorsements by State Rep. Linda Cheney, County Commissioner Vince Nowicki, St. Pete Beach Mayor Adrian Petrello, Firefighters Local 4966, just to name a few. I have worked tirelessly to put residents first and foremost, and have stayed true to my core values and commitment to the residents of St. Pete Beach. I believe in representative democracy and the process of the city.
Great, thank you. The next question is for Kennedy Robinson, to start with you. Do you propose any changes to the current development plan because of the rebuilding after the hurricane? What avenues do commissioners have to control redevelopment? And would you propose a moratorium on the plan is under review?
We currently have the plan under, the comp plan under review. That was initiated a while ago. As far as any changes to it, it would be dependent upon that review process. But currently, as far as that goes, we do have a review process in place with our comp plan itself. And that is under the land development code. You have 2 different sections for review of certain developments as far as conditional use permits and applications for such. So I would follow those processes because they are outlined, they're clear. But if you look at our comp plan, the original portion of our comp plan says we are a built out community, which means that less than 5% is available for development. With that being said, when the comp plan was written, they recognized the fact that there might be some projects that are worthwhile to look at, that actually benefit the community. And as such, that's why we do have the conditional use application permit process. But it is a strict review of items on that. There's about 2 sections that specifically address those items for review to find out if the project meets the needs of the community. And the commission, it's up to the commission whether they approve it with conditions, or they deny it. And that is an individual process for each development.
Commissioner, yeah, read that again. Do you propose any changes to the current development plan because of the rebuilding after the hurricanes? What avenues do commissioners have to control redevelopment? Would you propose a moratorium on the plan is under review?
As far as changes go, with the comp plan, obviously, the obvious one, based on your question. The obvious change that we need to look at for the comp plans, based on your questions, is because of the storm. So we need to have more language talking about resiliency in the comp plan, so, which ultimately land development code will help enforce. But there are 2 other key issues that need to be addressed as well in the comp plan. And that has to do with the discussion we need to have regarding the tax base and how we need to look in the future as a city. Because right now, I think there's very different opinions on how we need to look as far as being residential or commercial. And that's very important as we move past the storm, because you don't know exactly what this town's gonna look like whenever you build, but we need to get in there and kind of help drive that. The commission obviously has power in helping to shape the CUP as part of its community comprehensive plan, as well as it's being developed and of course approved in CUPs that come forward. What was the last part of your question?
Would you propose a moratorium while the plan is under review?
Absolutely not, and I'll tell you why. Right now, We are struggling as a community to get back on our feet after the storms. The last thing we need to do is stop any kind of forward progress to get our residents back in their homes or businesses up and running. Thank you.
Any problem? Do you propose any change of current development plan because of the rebuilding after the version? Oh, we did that. Okay, let me start with, Commissioner Kenny Robinson. How would you keep St. Pete Beach affordable for moderate and fixed income residents?
Well, first off, I wouldn't introduce any dangerous ideas that would jeopardize us being dropped out of the national flood insurance program. That would drastically change a lot on the beach itself. We're looking at, if we get dropped out of that program, we are looking at increased insurance costs. We're looking at having to have private insurance, go into the private insurance market. That's looking at $25,000 to $50,000 annually. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not that rich. I can't afford to have my flood insurance cost that much. In addition, it gets rid of any of the backing of the federal funds that we have for disaster assistance. And if anybody sat there last night, you know what deficits we're in already. That alone, the debris pickup on this beach was $7.7 million is what that cost, or what we're getting actually reimbursed for from FEMA. If we're dropped out of the program, then that's what happens. We end up paying that. That's incredible. That will devastate a city, let alone the fact that private mortgages will not be backed by federal loans. If you don't have that, you can't sell your home. How do you, all you can sell it to is a cash buyer. It's devastating. And my opponent has introduced an idea, which is this 15-minute permits, which would cause us to be dropped from the NFIP. And that is catastrophic to a community. Look at, all you have to do is go down to Fort Myers Beach, look at Fort Myers, and it's a ghost town. That's what happens to a community. And that is, you know, uninformed, dangerous ideas or bad decisions.
I'll ask you the same question.
Your question was about affordable housing. We need to talk about permitting and get there, but St. Pete Beach, as we know, is a beach community, and it is expensive to live here. And so we talk affordable housing across St. Pete Beach. We also need to talk about affordable housing in our general area. There's a lot of people that work here and their livelihoods count on working here, don't live here because it's unaffordable. So working with the other communities to ensure people have a way to get here if they can't afford to live here. It is not cheap. It won't get any cheaper, or it won't get any more cheaper to live here if we don't get our residents back in their homes as quickly as possible. And I think that's what Commissioner Robinson is referring to as one of my initiatives. But it's absolutely false that we will get kicked out of the NFIP. There are 21 cities right now in Florida that do not have an insurance discount, right, for whatever reason. But none of them have been kicked out of the NFIP. You don't get kicked out of the NFIP. So I think we just got to clarify. I understand the concern about insurance discounts, and maybe we'll talk about those.
This question is, with the recently approved hotel expansion, residents are concerned about the impact on traffic, the environment, character, and water wastewater infrastructure costs. How will you address these concerns?
Say that again.
With the recently approved hotel expansion, residents are concerned about the impact on traffic, the environment, character, and water wastewater infrastructure costs. How will you address these concerns?
Yeah, that's a great question, because, you know, as we were settling into this community, the two big issues that were that everyone was talking about, and it was really driving a wedge in this community, it still is, are those big development issues, the Serrata and the trade winds. And, I couldn't help but think when I was watching all of this unfold, that, the issues you're talking about and many other ones associated with it, could be resolved. If we had factual data, right? I think the traffic management studies that we saw weren't accurate. And so I think there's some other, things going on there where if we as a community, we're talking, talking a little more to the hoteliers that are trying to do the development, that we would come up with better solutions to address those things you're talking about. The traffic warrant is, when you get bad data, it's hard to make good decisions on that. And I think, looking at that again with an open mind and getting people in this community that genuinely want to participate in making this town better and addressing those developments, I think the answers are all there. We just have to work a little harder to get them.
Candidate Robinson, same question for you, I'll repeat it. With the recently approved hotel expansion, residents are concerned about the impact on traffic, environment, character, water and wastewater infrastructure costs. How will you address these concerns?
As well, they should be concerned. I've stated since day one that it has to be managed growth, and the residents have agreed with me. I was voted in with 71% of the vote last 5 months ago. And that is because of the fact that people are concerned on these issues. There's real concern. There hasn't been any credible data given to us as a city, and we accepted that. The previous commission accepted that at face value when it was blatantly inherently wrong. Even I, as a non-expert, could see that. Managed growth is key. And the other thing is to have those seeking extra density to pay for that, to negotiate. The commission needs to negotiate fees, money that goes back so this doesn't all ride on the residents' back like it has for the last 30 years. It has been paid for by the residents. And it's time that if people want to come in here and develop, that they need to pitch in and be part of the community if that's what they want to be.
The next question is for candidate Robinson. What projects would you submit for bed tax funding? Do you think that the county should change the bed tax legislation to allow more of the funds to be available for local government needs?
Absolutely. We get zero from the bed tax. Zero in this community back here. The only thing that we get is a little bit for beach renourishment, and that is it. And that was rude. Susan Consol, that was rude.
Don't lie then.
Oh, there's another one.
Right.
Lying about the bed tax, we get nothing of the bed tax.
I'm sorry, audience. We ask that you, if you have a question, please put on the card. Now you have to put on a card. Oh, thank you. If you put a question on a card.
And absolutely, we should be looking at the county to change that, so we get some of that money back. It's ironic that that money for the bed tax, which is actually called the tourist development tax, it only goes to advertising and marketing to get tourists here that use our infrastructure. And we get none of that money back. Doesn't make much sense, does it? Yes, that needs to change, and that needs to change on a county level and a state level, and we need to get monies back in here for our infrastructure that everybody else uses.
I'll read the question to candidates. What projects would you submit for bed tax funding? Do you think that the county should change the bed tax legislation to allow more of the funds to be available for local government needs?
Well, first of all, yeah, I think we need a greater share of the amount of money that St. Pete Beach brings to the county through tourism. I think that's one of the biggest issues that residents have a problem with. We feel like, and Commissioner Robinson mentioned it, we feel like it's all been on the backs of the residents, right? I think it's 8% right now, the tax burden comes on the residents. So it is up to the city, it's up to the mayor and the commissioners to work with the county to find ways to get additional money. That's a city to county battle that has to happen. But what we have control over here, and what I would recommend is to have the discussion about what tax a share do we really want to have here as residents. We've heard that 80% is too much for the residents to bear. So what is the right number? What I've read could be as, the sweet spot might be around 60% or 70%. But there's a trade-off for that, right? Because you'll have, you need the development to get the commercial tax monies coming in. So if we're not going to develop anything, we're not going to get commercial properties that are worth more, which means we're not going to get more tax trade-off the commercial properties, which means the residents are still going to carry the load. So there's more nuances to this. And so that's, if you read that, it's in the CUP. And if we don't have the commercial businesses here, and we don't allow the small hotels to expand a little bit, this town will slowly turn more and more residential, which means the tax base will become more and more on the residents too. So you have to balance. There's a balance there that we have to really talk about and a target we have to set. Thank you.
The next question, we start with Kennedy. Do you think the city's noise ordinance is fair to both owners and businesses, and why?
Are you talking about the current one or the?
I think the question was about
Yeah, we had a little bit of hubbub about the noise ordinance. That's what I asked. I think the current noise ordinance is fair. Right? I think at this point in time, with all we have facing us, almost singularly, our focus needs to be on getting the residents back in their homes as quickly as possible, getting our businesses up and running, and the people that rely on their livelihoods in this town. We all need to help each other get back on their feet. Trying to introduce legislation right now that doesn't help that process is irresponsible. So why do we introduce new legislation when we already have some out there? Well, the problem is you're having a problem enforcing it. So the question is, why aren't you enforcing it? When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So what I would say is, we have a good ordinance. Let's just figure out a way to enforce it. And let's turn our attention, instead of having commission meetings where 30 minutes or an hour is spent on a recovery briefing and 4 hours spent on senseless new legislation, that should be reversed. The bulk of our time should be spent on recovery and talking about how to get residents back in their homes and businesses back on their feet.
I'll repeat the question for Kennedy Robinson. Do you think the city's noise ordinance is fair to both owners and businesses, and why?
I'd like to step back one step because there was a couple things that were said under the bed tax issue by my opponent, which were not correct. He's referring to the economic fairy tale of the 80% getting to 60%. That can't happen. That is a fairy tale that is impossible. The trade winds alone, with its 5 parcel development of the large resort district, only increased the actual revenue up by almost 4%. So if you take what's remaining out there and you try to get to a 30 or 40% where you're going up, he's talking 60, so the other percentage is 40 for them to pay. We're at, with the trade winds, 5 units, 5 parcels, it's only at 23%. You have to get another 17%. It only raised it 4%. It is a fairy tale to ever be able to sell out all the density on this whole beach to get to a point where there's some sort of economic equality here, 60-40. It will never happen. You would have to have overdevelopment, massive density increases in this city, and our infrastructure can't even handle it. Everybody here knows that our sewer system is a pig. We all experienced it after the hurricane, and I've been preaching this for 20 years in advocacy. And a newcomer comes in and says all this that is so untrue. He knows nothing about the history and what's been going on this beach. It's an economic fairy tale, and it will never happen.
Next question is for candidate Robinson. What could you do to speed up the permit approval process and get people back into their homes?
I'll answer that after, because I missed the noise ordinance, and I will say that is democracy at its finest. Last night was awesome. We had 40 people here, and we listened. That's what representative government is about. We listened, we had them participate, we had back and forth, we had compromise, and we listened. And that's what it's all about. I've never been more proud to sit here and see that. After 21 years being active in this community and watching this commission have that happen, it was beautiful. And it's a shame that my opponent had stirred the pot online to initiate all of this and make it an issue, make music be an issue, and make the noise ordinance be an issue. There are real problems with the noise on this beach, and that has been for years now, and our current code doesn't work. We're looking for solutions for problems. And the reality is we can chew gum and walk at the same time up here. There is no wasted time up here, no matter how long a meeting goes. And I take offense to that. I'll sit up here for 7 hours if it has to happen to help my community. I will sit here and do it. Unlike other commissioners in the past who haven't put in the time. And sometimes you gotta make decisions because you have to move forward and you have to help people in your community. But it is democracy when you can take input and you can come to a resolution and make a change. And that's what needs to happen. And I'm sorry, I forgot the other half. Oh, I think I already said what I've done. You know, my opponent hasn't done anything except last week did one post last week. He's had 4 months to say something, and he comes up with one dangerous solution. I have worked tirelessly in this community to help the residents, and I've made a difference.
It's the same, I'll repeat the question. What could you do to speed up the permit approval process and get people back into their home?
Okay, so I want to just give you a chance to correct the record too. I actually agree with Commissioner Robinson on the tax base thing. I don't think we can get to 60%. My point was that we are complaining as a city that you're taking the burden of the tax at 80%. What I'm saying is that we need to decide what percent would be fair so we don't complain. And then once you decide what is a fair tax burden, you can make decisions on how to get there. So that's what I said. And as far as stirring the pot on the noise ordinance, this is a government not taking responsibility for their actions. They were the ones that passed a senseless noise ordinance that caused the stir, right? They're not taking responsibility, just like they don't take responsibility that it took them 3 months to pass the zero look back. They could have passed that in the first month. It took them 3 months to pass it. They didn't take responsibility when they weren't waiving permit fees. They had to have the local news station call them out before they waived permit fees. So they didn't take responsibility for that. And they're not taking responsibility for talking about killing Freebie in the middle on December 23rd in an emergency meeting for permitting. We tried to kill Freebie. So you got to take responsibility and don't blame other people for your actions. You know, I can't help it, people that support me also didn't agree with it. But I didn't stir the pot, and yes, I have an initiative to speed up permitting that will not cause us to get out of the NFIP. If you've had, and you've all seen it, if you've had damage, the typical damage, you should be able to walk in, sign an affidavit, and get moving. We gotta stop taking no for an answer, right? There's no reason we need to take no for an answer. We need to be courageous. Thank you.
Let's see. Hey, is your next up? The question is, what are your 3 top priorities for district?
Permits, permits, permits. I want our folks to get back in their homes as quickly and safely as possible, and I want to find new, better ways to do that. So that we can get them living here again and enjoying this great community. Same with the businesses. They need to get up and running. People's lives and livelihoods are at stake here. And if more businesses start going out of business, how are we going to get those back? That's our number 1 priority right now in this crisis. And this is why I'm running for commissioner. I know I don't have a long history here at CP Beach. But I have 39 years in the Air Force of solving complex problems. When I saw the complex problems that this city was facing and I saw how badly they were handling it, I decided I needed to jump in and make a difference. This is what I know how to do. I've served my entire life, and I'm here to serve if I'm elected, because I know how to manage a crisis. I've done it many times here. I've done it overseas. I've done it in combat. There's a difference between leading and managing on a sunny day. But when you're in a crisis, you need to be bold, strong, courageous. You need to lead by facts and let those facts drive your decision. Like the fact is, we're not going to get kicked out of the NFIP. The fact is, we're not going to lose our CRS rating if we went to the 0 look back. I stood up here 3 weeks after the storm and begged the commission to look at the facts and make the decision, and it took them 90 days. Come on.
Hey, Dave Robinson, same question to you. What are your top 3 priorities for District 2?
I have to correct something because I'm just surprised that my opponent would even bring up the look back. Because it was me, Commissioner Robinson, who initiated the look back on October 14th. It was my opponent who called me on October 16th to talk about his issues with permits. And he didn't know anything about the look back. I had to educate him and his wife on the look back, who were in shock about there being a look back. Mr. Izzy, my opponent, on October 22nd, sent a letter to the commission with a solution that would only benefit him on the look back. It is an option. He proposed a 1-year look back period with a one-time exemption for those who completed improvements within the last year, and that was him. That was him who did those improvements. He wasn't looking to benefit everybody on the beach. He was looking to self-serve. And he spent 45% of his 50% of his FEMA 50 in the year prior. He didn't care about anybody who had done anything on July of 2021 up until. He only cared about a one-time exemption for those who completed improvements within the last year. This is public record, folks. This is public record. This is self-serving. I care about everybody in the community. I have gone tirelessly, worked with everybody in this community, and I will continue to do so because there is a lot of work that still needs to be done, and I'm proud of it.
Candidate Robinson, you have the next question here first. What is your plan or idea to bring business to the beach to fill the empty storefronts and vacant commercial lot?
Well, that's gonna be tough in general if we get dropped out of the NFIP with a permitting process that would destroy the speech. As far as what to do with the businesses, it's to help them. The city is here to assist them for their rebuild and their growth. Anything that we can do to do that, I am all for. We have done stuff as far as I've worked with the city manager to help clean up Corey Avenue after the storms so that we could go ahead and get the debris removed so we can get the Sunday morning market back, which draws people from all over. It's not just residents, they're from all over the county. I personally worked with and promoted and advocated for the small business grant program. And unfortunately, that was denied, but I advocated and fought for that. I fought for the HOAs, the condos, the businesses to be able to capture in on our discount, our city discount for debris removal. My opponent did nothing. I've been here for the small businesses. I've been here for the residents. I've made change. I've been working since day one in office for the residents of this community. My opponent has come up with ideas, once dangerous idea last week. That's the first time we've heard of any solution at all. And I don't call that leadership. I call that Johnny come lately. I am not a Monday morning quarterback. I get out there, I get my hands dirty, I do the work that needs to get done. And I am here for the residents, no matter what they think about me or not.
Candidate, same question for you, I'll repeat the question. What is your plan or idea to bring business to the beach, fill the empty storefronts and vacant commercial lot?
Right, I'll get to that in a second, but Commissioner Robinson is not a Monday morning quarterback, that's for sure, but she is a little loose with the facts. So how to say that I did not know what a look back was when I just had my house to go under renovation? You know, I mean, you know the rules when you're working with the city on permits. So to say I didn't know that is just absurd. And then let's talk about the email she just brought up. I'm glad she did that. Because what I will do is post the text exchange that her and I had prior to me sending them, where she asked me to put some verbiage together for her. And then I sent it to her and I had sent it to the commissioners because she was looking to me for some help. Right? And the 1 year option that was proposed was because the mayor would not entertain a zero look back. If you look at the commission meetings, these are the facts. They didn't want anything to do with the zero look back. He was afraid of the repercussions from FEMA. So I put together a letter to help the commission with a 1 year look back that actually would help all residents, because the 1 year look back they were talking about at the time left residents like myself out in the cold because we had just finished renovations. There are many of us in this community, but you can't leave a certain class of resident out when you make these decisions. And for local businesses, it's all permits. Let's get them open again and get people working. Thank you.
Candidate, you got the next one. How will you communicate with residents?
Just in general?
In Carolina.
Okay, yeah, there's a number of ways to communicate with residents, and, you know, once I started this campaign effort, obviously I made myself available. I make myself available to residents, they can call anytime, but also via social media. I'll keep residents informed, I'll have regular meetings, I think actually Commissioner Robinson does a pretty good job of having regular meetings at the library and stuff, so those are the type of the things that you need to do. Is get out there, make yourself available, walk, call, right now, you need to be I'm calling residents right now for obvious reasons. But those phone calls should happen until every single resident is in their home. Back in their home. We say that's our goal. Right, we say our goal in the meetings is to have residents in their home as quickly and safely as possible. But we're not measuring that. We're not measuring that, we're measuring permits. How many residents are actually back in their home? We need to know that. The only way you know that is to get out there and make phone calls and talk to people. And so that's standard ways to do it.
Kate Robinson, same question, how will you communicate with residents?
Well, I won't lie to them. I won't tell mistruths about conversations and things that happen. I am shocked. I am absolutely shocked that you would sit here and say that you knew about the look bag. Absolutely shocked. That is ironic, and it's great that I recorded the conversation. That's illegal, so. But how would I communicate with my residents? I just like I've been doing, I get online. I post on Nextdoor. I had 12,000 thank yous on Nextdoor for the information I posted after the hurricane. 2 posts. I do community meetings, I lead workshops, and I have library hours. And I also have my personal phone number published on the website. So yes, I stay in communication with my neighbors, with my district, any way that I can. I reach out, I'm constantly reaching out. I won't lie to my district, I will not lie to my community. I never have, and I never will.
Kate Robinson. St. Pete Beach has an ordinance to protect marine turtles from the effect of lighting and other protections. Do you support enforcing this ordinance for hotels that may be in violation?
Absolutely, it is in our comp plan. And it is in our LDC. Our land development code. Our comp plan specifically provides for environmental protection. And our LDC, our land development code as well lists that out. Yes, that is a big concern environmentally, as well as the black skimmers and our dune system. We have beach items that need to be protected. We have endangered species that need to be protected. And yes, we should do better at enforcing that and making the hotels and condos comply.
Kate, it's the same question for you. St. Pete Beach has an ordinance to protect marine turtles from the effect of lighting and other protection. Do you support enforcing this ordinance for hotels that may be in violation?
Of course, there's no question about that, but our environmental part of what makes St. Pete Beach special is our environment. And we have to protect that. So there's no real, I don't think there's a real issue. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. What I do disagree with though is the intonation that I lied. Okay, I've spent 39 years in a career. Its core values are integrity, service, and excellence. Now you may not agree with the policies I'm presenting. It's okay. You may not like me personally, and that's okay. But I think you need to be careful before you call somebody a liar. And so I don't appreciate that. It's not who I am. I'll just leave it at that.
Hey, Izzy, What lessons can be learned from the hurricane preparation and recovery?
So a lot, and I know that the city is making plans to have an after action team put together an after action report, and that's the appropriate thing to do. But, you know, if you go back and, you know, here's one of the big lessons for us is when we got a storm coming in and the projections are looking pretty bad. 3 days before the storm, we have a commission meeting. And we're not talking about storm prep that much, right? That meeting should have been heavy on storm prep. You know what the bulk of that meeting was? It was talking about putting a moratorium on development. So we got off on the wrong foot. We should have had our crisis action team up and running before the storm. And then after the storm, you know, we obviously didn't have a good plan. So after the storm, it then becomes a pickup game on how you get people back on the island and all that. More importantly, it's how you get residents back in their home. And to take 90 days to pass the zero look back. Now, I'm not saying Commissioner Robinson wasn't for the zero look back. I've never said that. Okay. My critique is that if she was for the zero look back as strongly as she says she was, then she would have forced the commission to vote on it, or at least brought it up for a vote. Instead, she let the mayor run the show on the 1 year until he couldn't get any more mileage out of it, and he had to vote on the zero look back, and that took 90 days. You have to have the courage to stand up to the mayor or anybody on the commission, because each one of you is independent. So if you thought that strongly about it, why didn't you put it to a vote before 90 days?
What lessons can be learned from the hurricane preparation and
A lot can be learned from that. The city struggled. It struggled with permitting. It struggled with the process in general. It was new to everybody in every city across Florida that got hit. There's which I supported, a task force, a recovery task force that is evaluating how our response was, so where we can improve, what we can do better. But I must address the fact that knowledge is power, and my opponent here doesn't understand the city process. Because the process on the look back is you bring it up for discussion, which I did on the 14th. It went back to the city manager to come back with our options on what we can do on the look back. We had a next meeting was based on that. Then the meeting after that was a vote on it. And then and the vote went by the majority as a 1 year with exemptions. We found out after the fact we couldn't have exemptions. I voted initially for the zero. That was where I was at the whole time. Unless we could get SI and SD decoupled. But what happened was the 3-2 vote went. We ended up going through with the 1 year with exemptions, and then we ended with the zero look back. Ultimately, it took time, but that's how the process works. It's time so that you get input back in, just like the noise ordinance, just like we had last night with the noise ordinance, where we had input to us so that we could make a decision, not make a dangerous decision, not make something that was going to hurt a lot of the community. We are representing the community in our districts. We're representing residents. We have to respect that and when it's critical decisions like that, you have to evaluate them to make that.
Hey, Robinson, this is, I think, our last question from residents. Something further. Will you pledge to accept no donations from political committees outside the city?
outside of the city, it's sure, almost self-funded on this, so as far as you mean for my own campaign,
I think, yeah.
is it for my own campaign, for political committees outside, sure. I have no problem with that. Most of my donations have been from residents, because the residents support me. And between that and self-funding,
We're looking for, when you pledge to accept no donations from political committees outside.
Sure, I'll answer that in a second, but let me just want to go back to something I think is very important that Commissioner Robinson mentioned. She mentioned that the process took time and we had meetings. Well, when you're in a crisis and you've had a hurricane devastate you, you don't stay on the regular meeting cycle. Yeah, you had meetings there every 2 weeks. You should have been having meetings every single day. And if you were having the staff do research, every night they should have been reporting to the crisis action team so we could get moving. Instead, we went weeks and weeks and sometimes, 2 weeks before we even had another meeting. And we were in a crisis. We're still in a crisis. We still have people out of their homes. But we're on the regular sunshine meeting schedule. I just don't understand it. This is why I'm running. I've lived through a lot of crises, hurricanes and others. You bring up the crisis action team and you get moving until you get through it. So, yeah, it took a long time, 90 days. As far as the political action committee, of course she's going to say yes to that because her political action committee is in the city. Right? So I have a political action committee myself, but they're not based inside St. Pete Beach. But hers is, so she can answer that question that way. The question I guess is, are you going to take any money from political action committee? I think the answer for both of us is going to be yes. Hers just resides as part of this city.
Okay, well, that wraps up the questions and answers, and I want to thank everyone who gave us questions tonight and who sent them in. Now we will move into the wrap-up statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes. The order was determined by a coin toss prior to this event. Candidate Robinson will go first.
thank you. I'm a 54-year local Gulf Beach resident. I am not a newcomer. I have presented ideas and I have initiated change for the benefit of the residents and the small businesses alike, both pre-storm and post-storm. I initiated the change of the look back to zero. I repealed 10%, 20% owner contingency fees. I waived permit fees. I led and created a team of volunteers to work with residents one-on-one, and that is expanding out to in-home as well. I have walked the walk for this community. I have done right by my residents. My opponent hasn't done anything except talk. And talk, as we know, is cheap. Except for maybe his campaign spending, but I walk the walk and have done so for the residents and will continue to do so because there's a lot more work to be done. I am proud of my community. I have credibility in my community. I have integrity. I don't just put it out on a brochure. I actually have it. I am true to my word. I don't have a self-interest in this, and I don't try to change things here for a self-interest. I represent residents. I put them first and foremost, and I always will. I am informed. I don't come to commission meetings or present ideas where I am uninformed. Knowledge is power.
Okay, 2-minute wrap-up statement from Kennedy.
All right, well, first of all, I'd like to thank the league again for giving us this opportunity for all the District 2 and St. each residents that are here tonight or online, thank you for joining us. This election is really about one thing. It's about who do you think is the most qualified person to help lead the city through this crisis and then beyond. To do that, it's gonna take strong, capable, and proven leadership to get the best outcome that all of you deserve. I think you have a clear choice. I've already given you my background, you know that I have the qualifications and skill to do it. You've also had the opportunity to see Commissioner Robinson in action. She failed you on a big decision by not passing the zero look back for 90 days. She failed you by not advocating for permit fee waivers until after a local news story called them out. She failed by bringing up the freebie on December 23rd in an emergency meeting to try to cut funding for that. And then she failed again with the noise ordinance. Again, the issue is not what the wonderful things she's doing for the community, like the volunteer effort and all that. That is great stuff. The issue is the decisions she's making when she sits up here. Those decisions, those tough decisions for the complex problems we have, take a certain skill set. One that I have that's proven. So if elected, I look forward to serving you just like I've served my entire life. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We appreciate your appearance at this forum and your dedication to public service. I'd like to make a few comments about the election and a reminder. Residents displaced by the hurricane should remember that mail ballots are not forwardable, can't be forwarded. Please contact the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections Office to make sure they have the correct mailing address for your ballot. You can also pick up a bookmark at the table, and it has the phone number and a QR code at the back to help you reach the supervisor elections. But for those of you watching at home, the phone number is 727-464-8683 for the supervisor elections. Voters can also find information about candidates in the nonpartisan voter guide, which you can find at vote411.org. And please remember to re-request a mail ballot if you have not done so for the next election. I want to thank our lead volunteers who helped tonight and to the city staff for assisting with this forum. Have a great evening. You too.